so Scott Frost is the new head coach at UCF. And during Big 12 Media Days, he was asked, hey, what'd you learn at Nebraska? Because that was where he was at most recently as a head coach in college football, right? Where he played. And his answer, true to that lower third from A1 Caden Cato Smith, Frosty. He said, quote, don't take the wrong job. Now, I like Scott Frost. This was not probably the thing that you would say in this certain situation, right? I'll give you my thoughts right now. But if you're a college football fan, if you're a UCF fan, if you're a Nebraska fan, if you love this sport with every fiber of your ever-loving being, make sure you're subscribed, right? Appreciate you being dialed in. So don't take the wrong job, what Scott Frost said in response to being asked about what he learned from his time in Nebraska. And this just, even if it's true, man, there's some things you don't say out loud. You know what I mean? Like, even if Scott Frost is 110% correct, that he took the Nebraska job and it was a bad deal, he was set up to fail from the start, and it wasn't fair, the odds were stacked against him, even if that was 150% the case, you don't say it. You don't say it out loud in this specific instance. Why? Because it makes you look bad. We're not all sitting here today saying, man, Scott Frost had a point. Yeah, Nebraska did him dirty. Even if that was true, we're not saying that. We're all like, this is kind of a weird look for a guy who isn't at that spot anymore, who did his own damage personally to lose that job with what he was as a head coach and what Nebraska wasn't on the field. Just doesn't scream like super head coach move, to just put it in the most simplest terms possible. My thought as soon as I heard this was, well, if it was the wrong job, why'd you take it? Either if Nebraska wasn't the right job for you, why did you sign up for it? And I understand things changed while he was there from athletic director, so I get all that. But, like, nobody was forcing you to take this job. Had a good thing at UCF. It was your alma mater. You can't tell me you didn't want to take the Nebraska job. Like, the other frustration I have with the way that he answered this, and again, I like Scott Frost. I'm a Scott Frost fan for, you know, what he is as a play caller and what he was as a player and all those things. Like, at Nebraska in and of itself, he was talking at his introductory press conference about how the time was right to be at Nebraska, how the state was hungry, how he was honored to be back. And I'm sure all that was true. But I don't like the idea of painting it in such a way of like, well, I didn't even really want to go to Nebraska in the first place. I was being tugged towards my alma mater. Like, let's not do that, dude. Let's not do the whole I didn't actually want to be there. No, you wanted to be there. And I would want to be there too if I was Scott Frost. It didn't work out, whether it's your fault or someone else's fault. Ball up top. You're back in Orlando. You go do great things at UCF. Don't say something like this during Big 12 Media Days. It makes you look bad. Anytime someone is just reaming someone else personally to you in a conversation, you're not sitting there saying, wow, you know what? They got a good point. That person they're talking about, they actually do suck. You know what you think? Actually, the person saying this, I think less of you because you feel so comfortable speaking ill of someone that's not present. That's what actually is coming through in a discussion like that, and I think it's kind of a similar sentiment when you talk about how this whole thing plays with Scott Frost talking about taking the wrong job when he was at Nebraska. I also think, going back to, you know, Scott Frost's place in all of this with Nebraska's shortcomings while he was there, even if the AD wasn't awesome, you still have a job to do. Like, I don't think anybody in the world is 177% behind all of their, management on top of them. Like, I don't think there's one person you would say, no, I have no problems, never had a problem. You still have a job to do. Like Scott Frost, 2021, we got 9 losses by 1 score. That's not the AD's fault. That's your fault. At a certain point in time, you got to finish games. And I was on the front line saying, hey, they're right there. They're right there. They're right there. 2022 happens, slow start, lose to Georgia Southern. That's not on anyone but Nebraska football. It's on Scott Frost, on the players in that locker room, on that staff. Like, you can only point the finger in so many directions before you have to take some accountability. And I would have loved so much for Scott Frost to be like, I love my time at Nebraska as a player, wish I'd gone better as a coach, glad to be at UCF. Next question. How hard is that? How hard is that? End of discussion, wipe your hands, feel however you want to feel about it, talk to whoever else you want to talk to about it behind closed doors. But during Big 12 Media Days, when you are presenting yourself as the head coach of another school to say, don't take the wrong job, I've never heard a coach that I feel like is top tier in the sport, whether it's Kirby, whether it's Saban, whether it's Sark. Like, I don't hear those coaches saying things like this, even if they've had bad experiences at other places. All I'll say. So, again, I am pro Scott Frost. I am anti him saying this. Let's have a little more accountability. Let's maybe make it about our team, even if they're asking you about your former employer. Not a fan of this. But regardless, the plot thickens. We'll get more of this plot when UCF gets rolling this year in the Big 12. I hope they're phenomenal for Scott Frost's sake, and I hope Nebraska has a lot of success because we think they'll be pretty good on this show based on our record prediction, which is coming out for you tomorrow on this platform. So appreciate y'all being locked in. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.